Car culture is a part of Malaysian daily life with more than 15 million cars and 14 million motorcycles on the road. Congestion and traffic jam is common in major Malaysian cities. Car dependency makes the Malaysian cities hostile to pedestrians and the people who are not afford to buy any vehicle of their own. What are the impacts of owning a car, and what are the suggestions that could give more people more choices to move around? Let's take a bus to a city 130 km east of Kuala Lumpur and understand of how expensive the life is when owning a car. In 2020, there are 15,240,536 cars and 14,891,585 motorcycles on Malaysian roads. Car and motorcycle are used for every kind of trip: work, school, shop and leisure. However, a trip by bus or a train for a multi-day trip such as holiday or a work trip is quite common. How about try to attend a wedding reception and return to Kuala Lumpur on the same day? The trip is easily done by driving. In this trip, I travelled from Kuala Lumpur across the mountain to Temerloh, 130 km east. KFC, TFC and also HFC, but this is not a fried chicken, I think. Back to cars. In the early days of Malaysia, cars were a rarity on the roads, owned by the rich and the selected. It was viewed as a status symbol when most of the people move around the city by bus, bicycle, trishaw or walking. When Malaysia started to be industrialized, adding with the discovery of oil offshore of Terengganu and Sarawak, the affordability of having a car increased for the middle class people. Together with industrial boom experienced by the Asia Pacific in the 1970s, there are interests to develop a national car industry to reduce the import dependency. National Automobile Company, popularly known as Proton, was founded in the year 1983 to start the Malaysian automobile industry. Proton was founded with a joint venture of Mitsubishi. That is why the early models of Proton is similar with Mitsubishi cars. Proton Saga, the first ever Malaysian-made cars, were launched in the year 1985 based on Mitsubishi Lancer, and its variant is still on the market today. After Proton, more Malaysian car companies were established such as Perodua. Perodua was founded in the year 1993 by using Daihatsu technology. There were also other lesser known Malaysian car brands such as Naza, which use Kia technology, and Innoco, which use Hyundai technology. With the competitive local car market, increasing household income and subsidized petrol, car become the default way to travel near or far. 70% of the people in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor drive to work. Meanwhile, more than 95% of people in Penang drive to work. People are willing to stuck in traffic for hours despite the cost of driving is higher than taking a bus. In fact, the cost of driving a car is higher than any other form of transport except flying. Based on the journey I took from Kuala Lumpur to Temerloh, 130 km in distance, we can make a cost comparison of driving and taking a bus. A single bus from Titiwangsa bus station to Temerloh bus terminal costs RM12. Driving a car will cost about RM17.80 on petrol, RON95 subsidized, and RM15.50 on expressway tolls, which is RM33.30 on a single trip. Other than petrol and toll, there are other hidden costs such as the cost of owning the car itself, monthly installment, service, insurance, parking, etc. Thus, the actual cost of driving from Kuala Lumpur to Temerloh should be higher than RM33.30. Of course, a car could go directly to the destination, which is useful in long distance trips. But the thing is, most of the journey by car is often less than 10 km to routine destinations, to go to work, go to shop, go to school. If that's so, does the size of the country influence the decision of the people if they want to drive or not? Some of you might say, well, actually Malaysia is quite big and Singapore is small, that is why everyone is driving here. Singapore developed alternatives to car to encourage lesser car usage such as bus lane, MRT lines and cycle lanes. Despite all the effort to curb car ownership in Singapore, traffic jam do occur sometimes. Let's make a comparison of size with Singapore, Penang and Langkawi to show you that size don't matter. Penang Island is slightly smaller than Singapore and it used to have a clean and efficient tram and trolley bus network covering a quarter of the island until 1960. I talk about the history of tram and trolley buses in Penang, which makes Penang used to have one of the most sophisticated transit system in Southeast Asia. The link for this video will appear in 1 and 2 and Langkawi has similar size with Penang, but driving is a necessity because public bus is practically non-existent until May 2023. Also, the imported car in Langkawi is cheaper than the rest of Malaysia due to Langkawi's tax-free status. Size of a country or a city does not matter, planning and policy are. A country that earns billions in taxes and duties from the vehicle owners will lose a lot of car-related taxes when people are no longer thinks that car is a necessity for each and everyone. And the government income related to cars are not only limited to taxes and duty directed to cars. Related industries such as petroleum refining, plastics, car components and car servicing also contributed to the tax collection. Perhaps some of the people will defend the car-only environment, saying that there are humans that will defend the car-only environment that discriminate the underage and tourists who cannot drive and elderly and disabled who are often not fit to drive. Excuse number 1. House is too far from the workplace and school. Malaysian planned cities are designed for cars, not for people. When looking at the old cities such as in Georgetown and Ipoh, the city is designed compactly that every necessity, market, mosque, temple, shops, all within the walking distance. And the same with the old Malay kampung. Look at some villages in coastal Kelantan or Kampung Baru in Kuala Lumpur where dense villages prioritize people over cars. I talked about the design flaw in Putrajaya city planning in the previous video about the Putrajaya monorail and the reason of why 85% of the people in Putrajaya today drive to work there. The link will appear in... Most people will not drive from Padang Besar to Johor Bahru or Teluk Melano to Tawau every day unless you live in Perlis and work in Johor. In fact, most of the trips are done in routine paths to work, to school, to shop and leisure. Adding with the unreliable bus service which might arrive with the guidance of stars on the night sky, no wonder that almost all Malaysians drive. Excuse number 2 is about safety. Many fear of the safety if they take public transport and it is a legit concern. Safety concern can be in the form of crime or accident, but did you know that the crime and accident are more likely to happen on the road when driving than on the train? Excuse number 3, car is a necessity to carry the items. Some of you might say, well, I need a car to carry my stuff after shopping. That is valid when you have a family to feed or business to run. If you are just a single person or hardly do any grocery shopping, driving a 1.5 ton car when the car boot is empty most of the time is unfathomable. Do you know what type of vehicle can carry more goods more efficiently than pickup trucks and SUVs? Van, lorry. A poultry business owner Jafri Ahmad posted in his Facebook post in the year 2020 saying that, quote, owning a 260,000 lorry is more profitable than owning a 380,000 ringgit Audi Q7 that need a lot of money to repair and produce no income for the company. Unless you own a business, that is a little necessity to drive a Toyota Hilux in the city with half of the car is dedicated for open boot that is empty most of the time. In addition, tropical rain makes driving a pickup truck without a cover does not make sense. If you buy something from IKEA or department store, you can hire a van or a lorry to send the items to your place, or just ask IKEA to send the item with their delivery services. The book rack that you see behind me is actually carried by Perodua Azia, a ridiculously small city car, but the car is carrying this stuff perfectly fine. Why someone need a big SUV car that never touch a dirt road without any use for cargo is mind-boggling. Car culture in Malaysia has tremendous impact on the society in 4 ways. Ways number 1, car dependency reduce the social mobility. Okay, what is the social mobility? I will explain. Social mobility is the ability of people in low socio-economic status to improve their income, thus their social status via education and better paying jobs. Cheap or free transport option enable people from disadvantaged groups such as urban, poor, disabled and minorities to improve their disposable income by not spending a lot on a car. Absence or lack of good alternatives to car will make poorer people harder to increase their income, thus their socio-economic status remain the same. People who might or able to reduce their dependency on cars are people who are single, live in urban area, studying in school or university, minimum wage earners and disabled. According to this research paper published in the year 2019, drivers who are male, single or separated and driving purpose other than go to work such as go for leisure and shopping has higher tendency to speed and involve in a car accident. Living car free, which is not owning a car by choice, is rare in Malaysia due to patchy public transport network, absence of proper bike lanes and strong car dependency. Some places in the middle of the city is only accessible by car or motorcycle. Eventually, the certain jobs will only accessible to those who have a car or motorcycle, which is not cheap to own in the first place. Second, we need to look at the financial costs. With a minimum wage of 1,500 ringgit, a small car such as Azia or Viva will consume at least 400 ringgit of monthly installment, 200 ringgit of petrol assuming that the most of the trip is just within Kuala Lumpur, which is 600 ringgit monthly. And don't forget 300 ringgit annual insurance, the cheapest one, 20 ringgit annual road tax and other variety of costs such as parking, toll, maintenance, broken lamp, broken this and that and others. If the car is bigger, then the spending of car will be higher. As people with low income need a car to move around, their disposable income will be lower as well. Plus, that is just the car cost. Think about other costs need to pay, housing, food, education, bills, shopping on weekends. Number 3, driving saves time and also waste time depending on the situation. When will driving make you lose time? If there is traffic congestion. With massive number of cars and motorcycles on the road, 15-minute trip could easily turn to 1 hour traffic snarl if not longer. Number 4, impact on the environment. Vehicles that use petrol and diesel release the carbon dioxide to the air, a byproduct of combustion engine. Carbon released to the air makes the weather turn erratic. Often the weather nowadays is hotter than before. A car with only the driver releases 171 gram of carbon dioxide per person per kilometer, while express bus or coach release 27 gram of carbon dioxide per person per kilometer. In this journey, this bus released 3,510 gram of carbon dioxide for a 130 kilometer trip per person on a bus. Compare that with 22.23 kg of carbon dioxide if the trip is done by car. Electric train only release 6 gram of carbon to the air, one of the most environmentally friendly transport. That one we need to wait the East Coast Rail Line or ECRL to finish in 2027. Car ownership often associated with the freedom of movement. However, we should remember that the people who do not or cannot drive do not have a freedom of movement either. In the research conducted in Los Angeles in the year 2017, people with a bachelor's degree or higher academic qualification tend to travel longer to work than people with only a school certificate. The reason is that people with receive higher education need to commute longer to work in a job compatible with their qualification. Higher income people also have a higher tendency to own a car. In the context of Malaysia, almost everyone, rich and poor, owns at least one car and one motorcycle because bus is always stuck in the traffic, rail transit is only inclined value so far, and the frequency of KTM commuter is every 30 minutes. Car should be a choice to move around, not a necessity for every kind of trip, including 200-meter drive to buy a burger nearby a house. And don't get me wrong, car is not the absolute problem. The problem is car dependency. In fact, I drive a car myself and drove a lot. I want to highlight the car-centric development and car-only environment that force people to buy a car and force the poor, underage, elderly and disabled to rely on the unreliable public transport. Therefore, driving should be an option, not forced upon. As a conclusion, owning a car in Malaysia is expensive. Improving public transport, provide walkways for pedestrians and building proper bicycle lane could reduce the cost of living. Dense development with parks, stall and covered road will encourage more people to walk. Okay, how do I return back to KL? If you want to drive in Malaysia, you must be 17 years and above with active driving license. Cost of attending a driving school ranging from 1,300 ringgit to 2,000 ringgit depending on the location. When using toll highway, every driver must have either Touch and Go card, Smart Tag or RFID to pay the toll. Credit and debit card may be accepted for toll payment in 2024. International driving permit is valid in Malaysia when driving with foreign driving license except Chinese driving license. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new about driving in Malaysia and the life differences between owning a car and not owning one. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.